Okay, time being 7 p.m. I'd like to call this meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the traditional territory acknowledgement, followed by a moment of silence. Council of the Township of Red Rock hereby acknowledges that we are on the traditional territory of the Robinson Spirit Treaty and that the land we gather on is home to the Red Rock Indian Band, the Anishinaabe, and the Métis people. Administration advises that there is an addition to the agenda under items 8.3, the Community Development Officer reporting relating to documentation on the recommendation from JML. Do any members of council wish to make additional amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the agenda as amended? Councillor Gladden, Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion is carried. Are there any declarations of interest to disclose? Seeing none. Okay, tonight we have Patrick Albert from Aqua here to present the first quarterly report, the 2022 Section 11 annual report for the Red Rock Township drinking water system, the 2022 annual summary report for the township, and Red Rock drinking water system inspection report, and the 2022 annual report for the Red Rock wastewater treatment plant. Okay, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, so maybe a little bit longer on this one with a few different reports to go through. I think we can get started with the annual reports and then finish off with the 2023 Q1 report. So we'll get started with the 2022 annual wastewater report. So as per the new certificate of approval for the new wastewater facility, the township's required to provide an annual report to the MECP. So Aqua was able to prepare the report, submit it to the MECP, the township as well. So we'll go through that. Basically, the annual report has important information in regards to the new treatment facility, the quality of the effluent wastewater going out. Analytical test results are also in there, relevant activities and maintenance operations. You might notice a little bit of repeat as we do include some of this information in the quarterly report as well. So it starts off with the description of the works. The rated capacity for the wastewater system is 900 cubic meters a day. Services the Township of Red Rock. Population around 800. And the effluent receiver is the Nipigon Bay Lake Superior. And the major process for that facility is the RBC. In the annual report, it states the effluent monitoring and recording. So analytical tests are concluded on the influent and the effluent. So raw water coming in and clean water going out. Weekly and monthly, these samples are taken, they're sent to an accredited lab, and the lab gives us the results. We also do in-house labs as part of operations just to maintain the process. And these sample results, when they come back, we kind of put them up against the in-house labs just to confirm that everything is in order and operating properly. So sample requirements under the ECA on the influent, we have monthly composite samples. So we look at the BOD5, the total suspended solids, phosphorus, and TKN. On the effluent, we look at weekly samples, mainly for the same parameters, along with E. coli, dissolved oxygen, and temperature. along with the acute lethality to rainbow trout. The limits, so there are effluent limits for CBOD. We're looking at 25 milligrams per liter, TSS 25, total phosphorus 1, total ammonia is 5 and 15 depending on the season, and our acute lethality is non-lethal. Our pH has to run between 6 and 9.5 at all times, and our E. coli needs to be below 200 organisms per 100 mils of water. There's also objectives to the C of A. So along with our required regulatory limits, we do have objectives, and these are the numbers that we try to stay below. So 15 on the CBOD, total spent solid is 15 milligrams per liter, total phosphorus 0.5 milligrams per liter, ammonia is 3 and 5 depending on the season, and E. coli is 150 organisms per 100 mil. And our pH again 6.5 to 8.5. So in the report, we've got some graphs in here that shows a measurement of our maximum and our average raw flows for the influent and the effluent. Typically, you'll see, and on the graph, and I'm not sure if you all have the report in front of you, April, May, June are your high flow months in the spring due to the melt. So in the reporting period in 2022, CBOD was analyzed, and the average was 3.28 milligrams per liter, and a maximum monthly value of 7.42 milligrams per liter. So this limit, we were well within the limits for the effluent that was imposed of the 25 milligrams per liter, which was also within the 15 milligrams per liter objective limit. The annual average suspended solid concentration for the effluent in the reporting period during 2022 was 7.19 milligrams per liter. And there was a maximum monthly value of 25.83. So the 25.83 was above the objective and above the limit. However, we were at 7.19 on average. The maximum value was during the month of February. So again, all reporting was completed as per the C of A to all regulators. The annual average total phosphorus concentration for the effluent in the reporting period during 2022 was 0.76 milligrams per liter and a maximum monthly value of 2.97. So this parameter was not within the monthly compliance level of 1 milligram per liter. The phosphorus limit was exceeded in January, February, and March of 2022. And we were also below the objective. The reason for this particular case was the commissioning of the new wastewater facility started to take place September of 2021. And this being the first winter of the facility, we found that we had some alum lines that were freezing up. So this caused no coagulation, which didn't reduce the phosphorus. So this item has since been rectified, and the plant's running great in this regard. The monthly average for total ammonia nitrogen concentrations for the effluent in the reporting period during 2022 was 0.1 milligrams per liter and a max monthly value of 0.43. So this parameter was within the objective and within the effluent limit for both seasons. The plant compliance criteria states the pH in the effluent shall be maintained between 6 and 9.5. Our low for our pH was 7.6, and our high was 8.1. So we were well within the limits for pH. The ECA effluent monitoring requires the DO be measured weekly from grab samples. So the average DO during the period was 8.59. There was a high of 10.94 and a low of 5.79. So the ECA doesn't specify any limits or anything for dissolved oxygen. We try to operate and optimize the dissolved oxygen as best as possible where we have the best process. The effluent parameters includes a requirement to maintain a monthly geometric mean density of E. coli. So basically our E. coli should be less than 200 organisms per 100 mil. So in the reporting period during 2022, the maximum monthly geometric mean density for E. coli was 27.663 organisms per 100 mil. So this met the compliance values along with the objectives as well. These are really, really good numbers in terms of treatment. And the acute lethality for rainbow trout was tested in quarterly and was found to be not toxic. In terms of maintenance, Aqua's put together some work orders and maintenance tracking system through our WMS program. So we continue to complete maintenance, sampling, any type of work that is regularly completed, whether it be weekly, monthly, quarterly. And those reports are, we're able to produce those reports should council or the township request at any time. So operational issues throughout 2022. Again, I just, to emphasize that we continue to optimize the facility in 2022. There's still some minor adjustments that needed to be made and still need to be made at the facility. So a few of these items here, I've had some issue with the wet wells going into backup mode quite a few times throughout the year. So the operators have to reset these pumps to correct the issues. The sodium hydroxide pump would not reset at a point during the year. So these were all included in the deficiency report to the contractors and the project manager for the facility, and have since been dealt with, not as a whole, but for the most part. And then whatever's left over are continuing to be worked on. So again, the alum line froze. So a temporary system was put in place to make sure we can continue operations and continue to get our numbers. We've recently changed our injection point for our alum line to keep it indoors so that to prevent the freezing. We also had in April, we had 2 bypasses that were reported. So on April 6th and 7th, again, high flows due to spring melt, and the issue with the wet well pumps tripping out. So for calibrations annually, we need to make sure that all of our flow meters are calibrated and maintained. So these were done by the contractors in 2022. But we have work orders in place and contractors in place, third parties to come in and ensure that that gets done annually, starting in 2023. Sludge volumes, we hauled 3 times in 2022 for a total of 262 cubic meters of sludge. So we hauled in March, June, and September. So at this point, there's no expected change in the sludge handling methods or disposal. We did have some conversations with the township regarding this, and I think there's a good system in place now at this point. Complaints or environmental incidents. There were no complaints reported in 2022 from residents. And again, our environmental incidents due to our effluent exceedance for phosphorus and TSS in the first months of the year, they were all reported to the regulators with no issues there. And we did have a couple of bypass, and those bypass reports were also submitted to the regulators as well. Samples taken to ensure no issues to the receiving body. So that's it for the annual report for the wastewater. I don't know if council would like to do questions after each report.
I think it's best we address it that way instead of going
Perfect.
back into each report. So are there any questions or comments? Councillor Mayor?
Just with regard Patrick, on page 5, the acute lethality to rainbow trout was tested. Can you just go through that just a little bit on exactly what that is?
Yeah, so basically that's a toxicity sample. So what they do is we sample that in a 5-gallon pail. It goes out to the lab, and the lab introduces trout to see how many, if there's if it's lethal to the fish in the Lake Superior, so in the receiving body. So they can determine on whether it's lethal on their end. And should that be the case, then there would be likely some contingencies put into place to not put out into the receiving body. So just to ensure that, excuse me, the fisheries is in good standing within the Lake Superior.
So they're basically looking for toxins that you're like not testing for, the trout, so to speak, will find it.
Yeah, anything that's anything that would be lethal to the fish in the receiving body. Basically, they test the water to ensure, so anything over and above.
Okay, perfect, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? No? Okay, we'll move on to the next report.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the water treatment side. So the section 11 report is a report that's done annually as well. That's under the 170.03 and the Safe Drinking Water Act. Basically, the section 11 report concentrates on the quality of the water through the system. So it covers from January 1st to December 31st, and is submitted no later than February 28th the following year. So it contains a brief description of the drinking water system, including a list of water treatment chemicals that are used in the system. So summarizes any reports that are made to the ministry, summarizes the results of tests required under the regulation, or approval or order, including OWRA order, during the period covered. Describes any corrective action taken under Schedule 17 or 18 during the period. Describes any major expenses incurred during the period. So basically, capital expenses. So again, a description of the work. So we've got a conventional filtration system utilizing chlorine, polymers. It indicates population and where we're at, where the source water coming in. It's coming in from Lake Superior. So chlorine gas, soda ash, alum, bentonite, and polymer are the chemicals that are being used. Chlorine gas for secondary disinfection through the distribution system. Soda ash as a pH adjustment. Alum, bentonite polymer as our coagulants. So some expenses throughout the year. We've had an analyzer installed at the water tower. It was around $855. Our UV2 repairs about $1,600. That's and that's in capital. There's also the SCADA upgrades as a bigger project that's not captured. We had some incidents to report as well. So we had a high distribution chlorine. So corrective action is we backwash the filter, drain some water from the clear well. No issues there. There was a non-compliance for the 2B form submitted greater than 7 days after the issue was resolved. So that was reported to the MECP. June 15, 2022, we had a low pressure water main section was isolated for hydrant replacement. Aqua and the township worked together on the distribution BWA. We had a loss of data October 2022. And then in December 16th of 2022, we had the annual samples for inorganics and organics were collected past the deadline. So all our testing, microbiological testing was done under schedule 10, 11, and 12 of 170. So our number of samples taken for our raw water was 53, treated 53, and distribution 106. All the results came back clean. The operational testing done under schedule 7, 8, 9 of regulation 170.03 were covered. So a number of grab samples. This is continuous monitoring. For our raw water, we have 8,760 grab samples. Our filter turbidity samples as well, 8,760. Our chlorine for treated in our distribution as well, 807.60. Distribution 364, and that's our grab samples that we take. We take 7 every week in the distribution system just to ensure that we have proper chlorine residual throughout the system. Summary of additional testing. There were no additional testing or labs that needed to be completed. Also in the report, it says shows the inorganic parameters tested during this reporting period for the most recent sample results. I'm just going to kind of run through quickly. There were no exceedances in terms of the samples that were taken all the way through. Again, if council or the township, they wish to have a look at sample results or anything like that, it can be requested at any time and we can provide that. The township also gets a copy of it and they can provide it as well. Lead testing. So no samples were necessary on the cycle. For in the distribution system, our range of lead is very minimal, well below the limits. And there's the annual organic parameters that we sample for as well. And again, no issues and no exceedances with our organics. We do want to note that for our HAAs, we had a sample that was over the limit, just over the limit at 83.2 micrograms per liter. They've recently dropped the limit from 100 micrograms per liter to 80 micrograms per liter. So that's something that Aqua is going to continue to monitor moving forward. So the list of any organic or inorganic parameters that exceed the standard prescribed in Schedule 2 of the Ontario Drinking Water Quality Standards, again, there was nothing that exceeded. And that's it for section 11. If there are any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Muir?
Yeah, Patrick, what is the HAA and what causes it?
So the HAAs is a byproduct. So basically a disinfection byproduct. High chlorine levels mixed with organics can cause these HAAs. THMs are another byproduct that we keep an eye on as well. The limit for the THMs is 100 micrograms per liter. I think we're in good shape there. But the HAAs, there are ways that we can reduce the HAAs. Typically, when you have pre-chlorination, or you have standards where you have to set your chlorination at a higher level, it will bring in more HAAs. But there are many options to reduce and also treat HAAs if it does become an issue.
Councillor Smith?
You mentioned that there in the report on October 12th, there was loss of data and it wasn't recovered until it resolved in till the 25th of October. So that's 2 weeks of data loss. What data do we lose?
So at times, we could have an issue with the HMI or the chart recorder, or to where we don't have any data. So that would be basically the trending. So any, I guess I could say continuous monitoring. But we do have our regular data where the operators go in, monitor the facility, complete their daily rounds, their checks. They have all that recorded on site on paper. But we're required by the regulation to do 72-hour reviews to ensure that everything is in place and operating properly. With continuous monitoring, it gives us more data points. So with the loss to trending, typically what happens here, it could be a power outage that takes out the PLC or issues with the PLC. In this situation, the loss of data was due to the SCADA upgrades where they were doing transferring, taking out the old panel inside the building, and rearranging everything for the upgrades.
So does that mean that the 2 weeks of data loss was lost at one time, or for a 2-week period there was no continuous monitoring during your?
No, it was at times within the 2 weeks.
So it wasn't like a full 2-week loss, so you guys were aware of it when it happened and it just, after. Oh, it's not.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Muir?
Yeah, I guess to add to that, when they put the SCADA system in, the engineering wasn't predicting that. It was just to start a mishap kind of a deal.
No, not a mishap. Just you had to shut it down, shut everything down to be able to make the transfers. We were able to recover a lot of that data.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move on to the next report.
Thank you. So the annual, the 2022 annual, Schedule 22 report is basically a summary. Again, it captures a lot of the same items. Again, so it lists the system approval, the drinking water works permit, municipal drinking water license, and any other applicable to the system that are not met. So for, excuse me. So for each requirement referred to in clause A, that was not met, specified duration of the failure, the measures were taken to correct the failure. So all of our sorry. So a summary of the quantities and flow rates of the water supplied during the period covered by the report, including monthly averages and maximum daily flows. So all our flows recorded will be into the report. A comparison of the summary referred to in paragraph 1 to the rated capacity and flow rates approved in the system's approval, drinking water works permit, or municipal drinking water license. Or if the system is receiving all of its water from another system under an agreement pursuant to subsection 5, the flow rate specified in the written agreement. So in accordance with the municipal drinking water license, the Red Rock drinking water system shall not be operated to exceed the rated capacity for a maximum flow rate from the treatment subsystem to the distribution system of 2,722 cubic meters per day. The drinking water system may be operated temporarily at a rate above the rated capacity where necessary. So fire flows, for instance, a large fire, or any type of maintenance to the drinking water system. The Red Rock drinking water facility operated below the rated capacity for the entire period of 2022. The average monthly raw flow rate was 8,567.77 cubic meters. The average raw daily flow rate was 282.43 cubic meters, with the maximum raw daily flow rate of 481.23 cubic meters. In 2022, the average monthly treated flow rate was 7,596.79 cubic meters. The average daily treated flow rate was 266.05 cubic meters, and the maximum daily treated flow rate for the year was 406.10 cubic meters. So representing about 15% of the allowable daily volume. So summary of the raw and treated flows, including maximum raw flow into the treatment system, as well as treated average, maximum, and total flow rates are included in the tables below. Again, no exceedances in terms of volume. So at 15%, it does show a lot of room for expansion for the Township of Red Rock in terms of their water facility. So system failures and corrections. So a lot of this here, and we went through the 2021-2022 inspection report. So a lot of these items come back up into the annual report and get recorded here. So the 2022 final inspection rating for the drinking water system of in Red Rock was 86.32%. So all these, the status of these items are all completed now. But there was quite a few different items. So the logbooks were not properly maintained or did not require and contain proper information. So both the events were documented in the operator's personal log. However, when the inspector picked up the logs, they weren't brought with them. So we were able to supply that personal logbook to the inspector. So that one was completed. So the previous 2020-21 Red Rock drinking water inspection noted the following non-compliances. So requires that a monthly summary report is to be prepared in each calendar month, which sets out the timer, date, and duration of each UV equipment alarm signaling unit malfunction, loss of power, or the units not providing the appropriate level of disinfection. The monthly report requires that time, date, duration of each UV equipment alarm described in condition 1.6.3, the volume of water treated during each alarm period, and the actions taken by the operating authority to correct the alarm situation. So in 2022, April 2022, Aqua created an SOP outlining the requirements set out in section 1.6 of the current MDWL for preparing a monthly UV alarm report and how to prepare the monthly report. So Aqua will ensure that the undersigned inspector receives a copy of this, and they have by the deadline. Aqua created a monthly UV alarm report for each month from the start of the review period until present. And Aqua will continue to do that. And we do that monthly now and provide to the undersigned inspector. There was an AWQI that was issued on December 8th, 2020, due to the isolation of water main during the repair. Boil water advisory was put in place during the repair due to low pressure in the distribution system. Notifications were appropriately made in response to the incident, and corrective actions were taken appropriately. Samples were collected for total coliform and E. coli. One of the samples came back with a total coliform present. This sample was reported under the AWQI. Corrective action was appropriately taken to resolve the latter incident, and notice of resolution was submitted on December 15th, in which the boil water was lifted. So it was reported that the notice of resolution was not completed and appropriately submitted to resolve the AWQI. So the notice of resolution was submitted to us by the township and then to the MECP. All UV sensors were not checked and calibrated as required. So again, Aqua to continue to complete 72-hour reviews and ensure that it's documented properly in the daily logbook. We'll also ensure to provide the undersigned inspector the monthly logbooks. So we're providing the logbooks to the MECP for a period of 3 months, April to May. Just they wanted to ensure that everything was being logged. Records did not confirm that the water treatment equipment, which provides chlorination for secondary disinfection purposes, was operated so that at all times, all location distribution system, the chlorine residual was never less than 0.05 milligrams per liter or 0.25 milligrams per liter combined. So Aqua provided the information to the MECP along with the residual round sheets for November 2021, and it showed a value of 0.5. All the data was provided to the undersigned inspector prior to the draft as it was requested. We found out that it was a typo. It was the value was 0.05 milligrams per liter, so that one was removed. Again, sampling error was part of this. THM's another sampling requirement. And the nitrate. So what had happened was a quarterly sample was done late. So in the reporting year of 2022, there were 3 adverse water quality incidents reports filed. So January 17th, 2022, there was a high distribution chlorine. Again, a low pressure water main section was isolated for a hydrant replacement and the loss of data as well. So for the operating year of 2022, the Red Rock drinking water system was able to meet the demand of water use within the town without exceeding the permit to take water or the MDWL, the license and the permit. And that's it for this one.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Okay, we'll move on to your next report.
Great, thank you. So this next report is our inspection report, our last inspection report that was completed in February of 2023. From February 2022. So this is the first inspection report with Aqua as the operating authority for the entire inspection period. So through the report, the MECP made one, there was one best management practice. So the following issues were also noted during the inspection. There were multiple entries in the logbooks where the operator makes note of conducting the 72-hour trending review. In the entry, the operator refers to the previous 72-hour review. However, that previous review is not recorded in the logbook. This occurred on April 11th, 2022. Refers to reviews being conducted on April 8th, April 26th. Refers to the review being conducted on April 25th, May 9th, 2022. So basically a recommended action is to ensure that 72-hour trending reviews are being recorded in a logbook. The reason it's best management practice is that it's recorded in an annotation on the trends, the logbook. So it was captured. The MECP would like to see it logged in a certain way in the logbook. So we've started to do that already in operations. And there was only 2 non-compliances related to one event. The operators were a little bit late in completing the annual sampling. Basically, we had changed labs. They didn't have the cooler, and I guess it skipped their minds. So we ended up getting it done just a little bit late. So we switched labs now. We're with a different lab. Everything's running smooth, and we've put some contingencies in place in terms of SOPs and reminders for the operators to ensure that that doesn't get missed. And that was it for the inspection report. So we're anticipating a very high percentage mark for this inspection coming through. So quite a bit different. Next year's schedule 22 will have quite the short list on it when reporting it.
Councillor Muir.
Yeah, just a couple of things on that. Yeah, 100% on the labs. I know exactly what you're talking about there. There was a little bit of a, I wouldn't say problem with the labs, but the service was a little off over the last little while. With regard to the 72-hour logbook, is that like an engineer's book, like a leather-bound book, or is this a computer program? Because I noticed before when you said there was a non-compliance, but the operator had it in their personal notes. I'm just curious, as the process, are the operators required to have personal notes, or is that just a best practice on their part? And if you just talk about these logs and how they're documented.
Yeah, absolutely. So that non-compliance was documented in a personal log because it was from the township at the time and we were operating. So it was. So when we first came in as the operating authority, we started using paper logs where we're actually handwriting everything in. It's a regular logbook. It's an official logbook for a water wastewater facility. So at the time when we did the transition, the township was still or is still taking care of the distribution system. But the township didn't have an official logbook to log it in. So they logged it in their personal log. And then when we provided a logbook, they in turn transferred that into the logbook. It just was forgotten by the inspector when they took that logbook back. So it wasn't technically a non-compliance because it had been done properly. They had just forgotten the logbook. We have since gone to electronic logbooks for the water and wastewater system. So everything gets documented electronically now. So we can pull reports at any given time. We can pull a report and send to the client, the MECP inspectors, or anyone.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure about the logbook. If it was, again, at the end of the day, a thing goes missing. So now it's nice to hear it's online. Perfect.
Yeah, and operators, some operators do, some operators don't carry a personal log. I know I do. Again, the personal log is can be utilized as a legal document as well, as a log. But again, we like to have we went to the electronic version and it's fabulous. It's perfect. So
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Smith?
I know you spoke to it already for a minute, but in regards to the 2 months gap between the inorganic and organic water quality monitoring requirements, can you just go over that one more time? I know you said something to do with the switching of a lab or something to do with the lab. Can you just confirm again?
yeah, we so annually we do our inorganics and organic sampling. So our PCT group had found that it wasn't done in the proper timeline. So we reverted to the operators. They had to get coolers because we had just changed over from changed over accredited labs. So typically the labs, they send you the coolers for your year. You have all the coolers on site and that's kind of used as kind of another reminder as well to do the samples. So in the time that they had to go and get their coolers and get the samples completed, they were past their deadline. So we've got sample schedules set up now, and we've put some redundancies in place to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Can you just confirm what those redundancies are?
Yeah, we've got again sample schedules that are put into place. We have our PCT group that have a sample schedule calendar to make sure that they remind the operators ahead of time, so that nothing gets forgotten.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. Okay, last report.
Great. So 2023 Q1 report. So during the months of January and March, the Red Rock drinking water system operated without interruption. Our flows were in good measure. In January, we had a total flow of 6,945 cubic meters. Our daily average was 224, and our max was 296. February, very similar numbers, 6,347.94. 226.71 cubic meters a day, our average, and our max 268. For March, 5,764. Our daily average was 185.95. And our maximum flow in March was 272.71. So total year to date, 19,058.2. During the months of January to March, the wastewater treatment facility operated without interruption. Again, our flows are all really good. January, February, March, the flows are fairly low during this period of time. We had total flow in January was 10,730 cubic meters. Our average daily average cubic meters per day, 346, and our daily maximum 466. February, very similar numbers. We did have a little bit higher on our max flow, but again within the limit. And in March, again similar numbers, 10,305 cubic meters for total. Our daily average 332, and our daily maximum 439. Compliance summary. So all of our samples were collected. All back desampling was done. All of our distribution chlorine residuals were taken within the proper timelines. There was no adverse results detected. And all staff are licensed for the facility. Clark has got his level 1s now as well, so we're in good shape there. There were no new health and safety related concerns or incidents reported during the months of January to March. We received our final inspection report. We are still waiting for our inspection rating. The way the reports come out now for our annual inspections is we'll get our final, and it takes typically a month or two before we get our rating. Again, anticipating a very, very good rating. Community complaints or concerns. We had no community complaints or concerns throughout Q1. We did have a couple of alarms. We had a no polymer flow alarm, which locked out the plant. We had a low pH alarm and a low chlorine alarm, which locked out the plant as well. Operators did respond to these callouts. And for capital work, the capital recommendations have been submitted to the township. So again, we're just kind of working on approvals there and routes to take and see what kind of projects we're going to be able to complete in 2023. And the last item is the licensing. Again, like I was saying, Clark's no longer an OIT. He's got his licenses for treatment for water and wastewater now. He's doing fantastic. And Dave is doing great as well. And he still has his level 3 water treatment and his level 3 wastewater treatment. And to close it off, I really want to thank you all for taking the time. I know it was a little bit longer than usual with a lot of reports to go through. So I really want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to present this evening.
Are there any questions or comments on the quarterly report? Councillor Muir.
Thanks for keeping the water clean. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Thank you, guys.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the first quarterly report for 2023 from Aqua? Councillor Muir, Councillor Brand. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the 2022 Section 11 annual report for the Red Rock drinking water system from Aqua? Counselor Gladden, Counselor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the 2022 annual summary report for the Red Rock drinking water system from Aqua? Counselor Muir, Counselor Smith. Did you have your hand up? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the inspection report for the Red Rock drinking water system from Aqua? Counselor Muir, Counselor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept the 2022 annual report for the Red Rock wastewater treatment plant from Aqua? Counselor Smith, Counselor Gladden. All in favor? All hands. Motion's carried. Okay, I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Pat.
Okay, is there a mover and second? Oh, the open and closed session minutes are at the last regular meeting, April 4th, or at items 5.1 of the agenda. Are there any errors or omissions to note in the open session minutes?
Just want to
Councillor
ask
Brand?
a question. I noticed there's no page numbering on that. Is there a reason for that?
Page number,
Like no page numbers on them?
nope.
Was there a reason for that? Because I did go back and I looked at, they stopped in July, the numbering of the pages.
July of last year.
Yeah.
Well,
The last one in-
administration could look into that
Okay,
then.
okay. I was just curious.
Are there any errors or omissions to note in the closed session minutes? Okay. May I have a mover and seconder for motion to approve the open and closed session minutes at items 5.1 of the agenda? Counselor Gladden. Counselor Smith. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, first, item 6.1, information purposes only relating to requests from other municipalities. Do any members of council have any questions or wish to support the resolutions? Counselor Glad?
I support the Chatham-Kent resolution.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to support the correspondence from the municipality of Chatham-Kent regarding Bill 5, Stopping Harassment and Abuse by Local Leaders Act? Councillor Smith, Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. On the next resolution, anyone? Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to support the correspondence from the municipality of Shunya regarding municipalities retaining surplus proceeds from tax sales? Councillor Muir. Councillor Smith. All in favor? All hands raised, motion carried. That one really makes sense. Okay, item 6.2, information purpose only regarding letter from Ministry of Transportation or to the Ministry of Transportation from MPP Liz Bourgeois. Do any members of council have any remarks on the item? Councillor Muir.
Yeah, I like the summary of what's going in. It's like, guys, I mean, it's about time. You can't rely on the OPP to do all that stuff. So those truck stops need to be operational 24 hours a day. I don't know how many more accidents we need to have, but she's making a lot of really good points that I'm hoping they really listen to what's in this letter.
Next item, information purposes only relating to a news release from Ontario Water Power Association on a report prepared by OPG. Any members of council have remarks on this item? Seeing none. 6.4, information purposes only relating to the triennial report from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Councilor Muir.
Yeah, this still scares me. I read a report about how the roads are dangerous, and then I read this after. And I remember when we had the everything's like bulletproof, nothing can leak. But I remember the Titanic sunk on its first voyage; it was unsinkable. So still think this is very, very risky. Still highly opposed to this, seeing this happen, seeing waste on the highways are really, really scary.
Any other remarks? Okay, item 6.5, information purposes only relating to NOMA's annual summary report for March 22, 2023. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Seeing none. Information purposes only relating to NOMA's 2023 annual meeting and conference agenda. Do any members of council have any remarks? It's next week. Okay, seeing none. Next item 6.7 is a request from the Fish and Game Club for their 24th annual Fish Derby. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Councillor Smith?
If we've supported it before, I think we should definitely support this now.
Councillor Smith? I mean, Councillor Muir?
You didn't. Okay. Yeah, no, I was thinking because I don't know if there's very much of a cost. It's an in-kind. I was thinking the fishing festival, we could donate that plus monetary for a prize. I would like to put that on the table as well, monetary, so they can have more prizes, because this does draw a lot of people and it's a super good event here.
Any other questions or comments?
What have we done in the past? Just the slips and use of the camping sites. We haven't done any monitoring in quite a while. We used to do the largest fish, I think. But I don't know what they've done last. Well, COVID started, right? So yeah.
Councillor Smith?
I'm for a monetary prize as long as it's in our budget and it won't cause any, inconvenience to our budget.
Councillor Muir?
Yeah, I'm still good with the monetary, because I look it up at the screen up there, and Mark should have a number for us.
For
Monetary donation, if we're going to make one.
yeah, you can certainly, as a council, can add that. What they're looking for is the free camping and the boat launching, right? The boat slips, they're just looking basically for it to be open. They're certainly paying for that, and that's not a problem. But if you did want to add a monetary donation, that can be done and altered right here with a decision of a majority of council tonight. I don't know what it was in the past. I don't know if there's ever been a monetary donation in the past, but you can certainly do that.
Councillor Smith?
Can you confirm that it won't adversely affect our budget if we did do one? And do you have a recommendation of a value?
Are you, by affecting our budget, are you talking about our annual operating and capital budget?
Yeah, would that come out of that budget, or does it come out of a different budget?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it wouldn't have any impact significantly really on a budget that large, that's for sure. But I mean, we can make a recommendation for a prize. I mean, I don't know what number to put at you, but I mean, I know in the past you have done donations similar to a $50 gift card, something like that, or $50 or $100 donation, which I think is definitely more than manageable.
Okay, I'll get out the resolution and I'll add an amount and see if that passes. Okay. Mhm. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve free camping, launching, plus a $100 monetary donation to all to all registered participants? That's not right. $100 isn't going to everybody. Oh, launch right there. Okay, I'll put it right here. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve free camping, a $100 monetary donation, and launching to all registered participants in the 2024 annual trout?
I'll second. I just like,
Councillor Smith, Councillor Muir, all in favor? Motion is carried. And I'll make sure to write that up. It's $100 max per person. Okay, information purposes only regarding the 2023 vegetation control program. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Seeing none. Next item 6.9 is a request from the Red Rock, Nipigon, and Dorian libraries for a donation to their program, A Superior Adventure. Do any members of council have any remarks on this item? Last year we did donate a $50 gift card. Councillor Muir? Okay. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve a donation of $50 to the Red Rock, Nipigon, Dorian libraries for the donation to their program, A Superior Adventure? Councillor Gladden, Councillor Brand, all in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, first item 8.1, report from the Director of Operations. Welcome, Blair.
good evening.
Hey, do any members of council have any questions on Mr. Westerman's report? Councillor Muir?
Sorry. Yeah, just a couple, one question there, Blair. With regards to lift stations, are you finding the same items are blocking the pumps?
Yeah, it's pretty common, the blockage. I won't go into details. But
Okay. Okay. So common blockage. Okay. Gotcha. Would there be any way? Okay, it's not towels or anything, then it's not things that are being forced down the drain.
I'll describe it as rag material.
Okay.
But it's
Some, honestly, there's been blockages when I was plumbing and you would see like towels and stuff flush down the drain to get wrapped right around the impellers. Okay. Rakes and some minor repairs on the Ford. Is that 2012 Ranger? Is that on the capital plan to get that thing out of the fleet and get something looked at in the next year or so? 2012 is getting
not
there.
at this time, no.
Okay. And then my last one was the electrical contractor. Are we not using, do we not have a electrician on staff anymore?
We don't know.
No? Okay.
No.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report? Councillor Gladden? Councillor Muir? All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Thanks, Blair.
Problem.
Next item, 8.2, report from the fire chief. Let's see you. Do any members of council have any questions? Councilor Brand?
I have just three quick questions, I hope. So they're organizing an auto extraction. I'm just wondering, do we have an extractor, our own fire department? And my next question would be regarding the submission of the grant. What type of equipment are we looking for the fire department? And then just the call out on March 18th regarding the carbon monoxide. Was this a call based on a carbon monoxide alarm going off or not? And do they now have carbon monoxide alarm in their facility?
So I
Um,
can
those
speak
are-
to some of it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, certainly, I will have to get you an answer to those questions, but that's the process, and that's what I will do. I'll have an answer to you on those questions.
So to my knowledge, they do have auto X equipment. Okay, jaws of life, things like that. What else did you have? The grant, well, it just says for fire services, so whatever's probably needed, but Mark can get back to you with that. And also the carbon monoxide alarm. I believe it was the homeowner reported it or family member reported it. Yes. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to receive the report? Councillor Smith, Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Okay, next item, report from the Community Development Officer. Oop. One second. Get to write them up. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to appoint Justin Olson as probationary firefighter? Councillor Mayor, Councillor Brand, all in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. School pen. Yep. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to appoint Tyler LaFleur, promote him to firefighter as he has completed the junior firefighter program? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Smith. All in favor? I'm sure we can. Okay. Welcome. Good evening. Hey, do any members of council have any questions on Ashley's report? Counselor Smith?
I wrote some questions down, but I don't remember now if it's for you or not. But the cruise ship readiness, do we have like updates for that, or is there anything, or is it just still the same as last time?
It's still the same as last time. So they are still working with Superior Country and the Lake Superior North Shore Tourism Coordinator for the trip out to Rossport, Battle Island, and the Ganilda. They are very last minute in their decisions, so nothing will be happening in Red Rock for the 2023 season. We are still booked with Ponant for 2 trips in September for 2024.
Counselor Muir?
Yeah, just a couple. Golden Club van. I'll leave that with you. And then the other one was the strat plan implementation. What, do you have a plan, and is there a process we're going to look at trying to roll that out?
Yes, so we have the action plan that McSweeney and Associates provided council and administration with to start moving things forward with Braden on staff. That works towards one of our goals and objectives. There are some things that administration has been working on already that has been identified. So there is a meeting on the docket within our staff and administration to go over what's on our end of it, as well as moving it forward. It's kind of like some things are being worked on behind the scenes rather than we're doing this objective, we're doing this objective, we're doing this objective, because they do take a fair bit of time to work on across the board. And once I believe it is later in the agenda, a couple of those items are being addressed in council's agenda this evening.
Any other questions or comments? Counselor Smith?
Can I ask about the bowling? For the added item, the amount that the bid came in at, is that, just remind me, is that within our allotted
Yes,
budget?
it is. So the 2 bids that were received, one of them was over our allotted budget and the other one was under the allotted budget. So the recommendation from JML is for the lower bid. They were both provided with the same tender requirements, and the Cuba Camp or the Associated Bowling Companies of Canada came in as the low bidder.
Can you remind me what our allocated budget was?
It was approximately $150,000 for both the lanes and the automatic scoring system. And this provides us with the computer software, the scoring system, the training, the freight, the gutters, the bumpers, the whole shebang.
I saw it also had like the computer and the printer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a full front end full front end system that is compatible with the automatic scoring system.
Counselor Muir?
That scoring system, is it just an app, or is it going to be something? Do we get a preview? Are we allowed to have a look at that?
So it's the closest thing I could say. You've been to Mario's Bowl in Thunder Bay, it's the same system.
It's that one?
It's
Okay.
that one.
And you're staying on the
So
lane then when you're bowling?
yes, so the TVs are above the lane, so
Yeah.
there'll be 2 sets of TVs above one above 1 and 2 and one above 3 and 4, kind of right above where the ball returns are, that have your graphics. If you get a double or a turkey, there's different games that you can set up if you want to do a different type of bowling game. It had everybody scores, and then there's the little keypads where you can enter in each person's score. If someone misses their turn because they went to the bathroom, you can skip their turn and go back to it.
Nice.
That kind of thing. And then the computer system itself is the all of the scores go to that. So if you went for family bowling and wanted to print off your scores at the end of your family bowling night, you can take your scores home with you.
Nice.
But we have the league software as part of this as well, so that covers all of the league stuff. So it does all of the stats, it does all of the tracking for pre-bowlers, everything like that. And then it's also cloud compatible, so they can access it. The league can access it remotely. We don't have to be in the office.
That's great. That's awesome.
Counselor Smith?
I might actually bowl again then. We'll see. However, I'm just curious, I know it was never stated in anything I read, or if it was, I skipped it. Are we getting new balls as well?
That was not part of the original application.
Well, the old balls have a curve to them.
We're hoping the lanes will remedy that.
I just didn't know if the end, if there's room, if there's like leftover, if that could be put towards something like that. If there's,
So with a large project like this, if we're under budget in one area, we're not tied to spending, okay, we've budgeted $150,000 for the bowling alley. We have to spend $150,000 in the bowling alley. This gives us like, we'll round it to an extra $15,000, where if we end up with say something with the ventilation system or the roof section requires an extra $15,000, we still have that room. So it gives us a bit more wiggle room in another area outside of the bowling alley, should we need it. So the fact that we came in under budget in one area is good for potential. And then when we get close to the end of the project and we see how much wiggle room, that's when we can start adding in a couple of these extra provisions, as long as they're within the overall scope of the project.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to receive the report? Councillor Brand, Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Is there a mover and seconder for motion to accept JML's recommendation that QUBI CAAMF be awarded the bowling alley upgrades project in the amount of $133,065 plus HST? Councillor Muir, Councillor Gladden. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Ash. Eight point four is report on administrative activities. Do any members of council have questions of Mr. Figlamini? Councillor Smith.
I asked it last time, I'll ask again. How's the budget process going? I think last week you had the BDO here for their final session or something like that.
Yeah, and first of all, apologies, I didn't really hear your first question on the budget item earlier. That's why I was asking if you were talking about the operating, and it kind of cut in and out. But anyway, apologies on that when I asked about that. But the budget process, so different than what BDO is here actually doing the audit. So the 2022 audit is what BDO was in all last week for. So they are very close to completing what would be our 2022 audit. I believe they're back tomorrow. They needed one extra day. So they will be back in the office tomorrow. So that process should be hopefully complete within the next couple of weeks to month and be presented to council at that time. The budget process is moving along as well. We have what we hope are some substantial meetings on Thursday afternoon and Friday to hopefully be able to tie in the 2023 budget to present to council. Some challenges, it's not every year that you take uncollectible taxes of a couple of million into your numbers. Things get a little bit, it's positive news. We're cash positive in a good way, but there is a little bit of work left to do with budget. In saying that, what I wanted to address later on, and I'll do it now in the updates, is the ability to send out an email to council, hopefully tomorrow, to set up what we could call a pre-budget education session with council, where we can do that as an isolated meeting and present council the 2023 initial discussions on budget and kind of an education process on that. So I'll send that email out if that's okay with council tomorrow, and try to schedule something as a special meeting, hopefully next week sometime.
Sounds good. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, do you want to give a verbal update on any of the direction and discussion portion of your report?
Yeah, if all the questions are done, I can go to that for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we touched on the budget then. I'll get that email together and we'll try to put some times together. Ashley handled the strategic plan, kind of that portion in her CDO report, how we'll be bringing that ultimately to council for their participation. So the facility tour and education session, just an update that that will be tomorrow. Pat from Aqua will be on site tomorrow. We'll start that at the municipal complex and then we'll go from there. EMS process. This is one I wanted to take a little bit of time on and discuss with you as a council. I met with EMS Chief Shane Muir, mostly by email thread and a brief phone conversation last week. The update for the Nipigon Red Rock consolidation is they're proposing they will be in the area of Red Rock and Nipigon for what they're calling a consultation process with the two communities. Sometime in June. I don't have a solid date yet, but that's when they're looking at being in our area. They've already started the process with Scriber and Terrace Bay. And that was kind of the structure they were taking. They were going to deal with those two bases first and then come to Nipigon and Red Rock. What we've learned through this process and some discussions is what they will be looking for is potential commitment from each community to provide a location to, in essence, build an EMS station in either community. So there's a few options, I guess, on the table that could come out of it. I mean, for example, Red Rock council could provide specific locations within Red Rock that we would be willing to build that building on. So it could go in Red Rock. It could go in Nipigon. I'm assuming they would go through the same process. And collectively, I guess off the table isn't not being able to maybe work together as a central location. The issue with the central location sometimes is going to be under the current system, from what I'm gathering, is the ownership of the property. What will happen in the process is if Red Rock, if you as a council said, yes, let's provide some locations for this facility, what would happen is we would fund the project as the Township of Red Rock. So if it was $1 million construction, we would be upfronting the $1 million. That's how this process works. And we would engage into, from history in neighboring communities, which would be, for example, a 30-year lease on the building. So the direction I guess I'm looking for from council is should administration go out and look at locations within the Township of Red Rock? We've already kind of tentatively looked at a couple that could work, and so that we're prepared to provide that information to EMS, because the ultimate way it was put to me in essence is, I mean, if the two communities provided locations and the willingness to fund this project, the ultimate decision would be made by EMS as to where they're putting it. So, I mean, we either provide these locations, or is the direction that we wouldn't want to be a player in building the facility. I guess that's the direction I'm looking for.
Councillor Smith?
I think my question would be, if we did put up a plot of land, can we even afford to build? You know, are we gonna bankrupt us trying to build if it's $1 million building? Like, is it gonna adversely affect us?
Well, and I just threw $1 million out there as an example, Councillor Smith. Ideally, the thought and the process behind it is that you would have to be able to borrow that money on some facet, or have that money and then be paid back monthly. So it's a great question. And I think we're a little bit, I think in the process right now, it's more, are we willing to go down the road of trying to provide property? And that, I guess, is the question now. And then you pose a great question as to whether we can afford it in the long run, but are we prepared for what we need for the consultation process, I guess, is what is I guess the direction we're looking for now.
I think discussions with Kekabeka would be beneficial to us because they now have a new base, which they've signed on this with agreement with the city of Thunder Bay for at least 2 years now. So you would get the information on how they're repaying. So basically they want you to build the base, but they'll just pay that more, right? Pay that off in 30 years or whatever. But how that worked. So you would probably be able to get more information from them. Shun is in the process, but they haven't broken ground yet, I don't believe. Councillor Muir.
I think from what we heard at the presentation last time, obviously we're getting pitted against each other. That's the worst part. I think we need to have a good, frank discussion with Nipigon. Have that discussion prior to the meeting with them, because it doesn't matter who builds the base if they're going to be taking the paramedics and sending them to Thunder Bay. At the end of the day, if they're not going to commit to having paramedics in the bases here and staffing them properly, and I know we heard a lot that they're working on this plan and this plan, unless their plan's actually going to work. I hate the way they're trying to pit us against each other, because initially my guts to react and just go, let's get a bunch of people tonight and pick a spot and build this and go from there. Yeah, we'll make the money back over over 30 years, but end of day, who cares about the base if there's nobody in that base, right? That's I think something that we need a commitment from them. We call 911. Is that person going to be there, or are they going to be in Thunder Bay because Thunder Bay can't handle their own, so.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you're correct. We don't have enough of that information because we haven't really been consulted in a way that we have all that information right now. In June, they're going to come and ask if communities are interested in being that kind of site of the facility, right? But you're right. There's so many different unanswered questions out there. I just wouldn't want to be in a situation where we're ideally not prepared if we do have to make that type of at least decision based on the property. I think collectively, I mean, I agree. Let's engage Nipigon in these discussions as well, because ideally, I mean, a location that was central between the two communities, I think would benefit both communities and hopefully provide the service that we need. It's not maybe that easy based on the ownership of the property and having for example, Red Rock being able to invest in a property that isn't, or in a facility that isn't on our property. So it's a little complicated because we don't have all the information.
Councillor Muir.
Yeah, and I definitely would like to see the conversation happen with Lake Helen as well as Dorian Herkett, because at the end of the day, we have to, like, right now is the perfect time for them to try and divide all of us and get us fighting over this base. We have to stick together on this. So it'd be nice if we had everybody, because everybody's going to be relying on the service 100%. So I think we're stronger together. So.
Yeah, and I think that is in the plan, Councillor Muir, for sure, where we're looking to get together as a kind of that little cluster of communities to have these exact discussions.
Councillor Smith.
Just to the origination of your question, I'm for picking a property as long as we're not locked into it at this point in time. If we have time to decide if we're going to go that route, but I'm okay with looking at properties to put up. Yeah,
we're just really not locked into anything at this point. Just just trying to get ahead of it, because I know what's going to happen is they're going to send an email and kind of want to visit us in June, and we have to at least be prepared, I believe. They could come to us and say, listen, we really want this facility in Red Rock because it can dispatch to Dorian, Herkett, and Nipigon, as well as serve Red Rock. I don't know. That's nothing that's been discussed, but I'm just saying that ultimately they've made it clear that they will make the final decision. If two communities did want it, the decision will fall to EMS.
I think it's in our best interest that we prepare properties, sites, and have all the information that's required for that meeting and for any future meetings with the other communities. So I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I think we should prepare for that. Okay, is there a mover and seconder for a motion to receive the report? Councillor Muir, Councillor Brand. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried.
And was the general consensus around there that council does want to at least look at these properties? Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, next item, 8.5, a report on the council committee's terms of reference. Do any council members have any questions?
So we did put this together as a general document that would cover all of our advisory committees. We did provide a resolution, or the potential of a resolution for this tonight if council was happy with what is in front of them, and then we can move forward with reaching back out to volunteers that have put their name in and start putting a process together. If there was any changes or any additions that council thought they wanted to see, then we can record those this evening and bring that back.
Councillor Smith?
If we did go forward with this, do you think it'd be a good idea maybe to do some type of post again, calling for volunteers one more time, now that, say if this is a final thing that we are going to go through, that might drive people to go, hey, actually, you know what, I want to sign up for this, and along with that, put up their actual responsibilities, what's expected.
No, for sure. That's this is the start of the process, and then we can regroup or revisit the names that we have gotten, and additional potential recruitment, and then kind of break it down into those specific committees and the interest. Because what we did do with a lot of the individuals we reached out to was significant, was ask them what their interest was, right? So but sure, this this would start that process.
Councillor Muir? Is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve the terms of reference for the all council committees in the Township of Red Rock? Councillor Smith. All in favor? Rising, motion is carried. Okay, item 8.6, report on the Committee of Adjustment training held on April 11th. Do any members of council have any questions?
It's a good thing that you had this, especially, getting into the season of building and whatnot. So that's a good thing you had this. I don't think we've had this before. Township, so well done.
Yes, it was very informative, and did learn a lot, sure. No other questions or comments? Okay, next item, a report on the township's update expense policy. Do any members of council have any questions?
What a question. I noticed in the first paragraph, the fourth line. Typo. See, P1.
Okay. Counselor Muir?
Just so I was reading this correctly, alcohol is not purchased at any time. Because, I wasn't reading that, I think, correctly, because it should never be purchased with funds.
Can't have an alcohol expense.
No,
That's in-
okay, I was reading, I'm like, because, okay, it says you do not purchase alcohol, I just was looking at that because it said there's provisions and, okay, like, because it wasn't preventing you from going to a conference and having, or a drink, but the township does not cover those costs. I wasn't clear when I read that.
Right, we actually only made 2 changes to the existing policy. So if we wanted to highlight the 2 changes that we proposed, the only 2 changes happened at the mileage rate. So if you see the mileage, the change here, the mileage would now be calculated at the CRA rate, which is standard across any government organization in any municipality. So that CRA rate currently is 68 cents a kilometer. The Township of Red Rock at this point, due to our policy, which is outdated, is paying 42 cents a kilometer. The only other changes we did make were on the meals, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I believe it was 15, 15, and 25 for North, or 15, 15, and 30 Northwestern Ontario. Those were that was the only rates based on wherever you were. What we are proposing is the new rates in front of you. So, and a break between Northwestern Ontario and Southwestern Ontario. So, and you're correct, alcohol is not a reimbursable cost when we are traveling.
Any other questions or comments on the policy or the updates?
So really, we're just looking to bring this policy more into current and in line for 2023.
Okay, is there a mover and seconder for motion to approve the Township of Red Rock's expense policy? Councillor Gladden. Councillor Muir. All in favor? All hands rising, motion's carried.
And Mayor Robinson, I think maybe Councillor Muir was talking about the CAO, the provision of hospitality, maybe.
Yeah, that's exactly.
In the old policy. So what that refers to, for example, is that, and again, that's been in the policy. We didn't, but the CAO must give prior documented approval for the provision of hospitality that includes alcohol beverages subject to provisions under this policy. I guess an example to that would be if we were entertaining, for example, say there was a large industrial corporation looking to come into Red Rock, and council, took that group out, or they went out. I guess what this is saying is then if the township was covering that cost, for example, and a decision was made, you could provide alcoholic beverages under that circumstance, but under no circumstances could council or staff travel to a conference per se and go to Boston Pizza for supper and have an alcoholic beverage. So that would be a decision of the CAO and more than likely council if we ever got into a situation like that.
Okay.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking, Mark, when I read that. I thought, oh, yeah, exactly that.
So it wouldn't happen unless it was, I don't even know if that was a good example to use, but I don't know what a real good example would be, but maybe that covered it, but.
I think that you explained it good enough. It's just like if we were hosting an event or hosting.
Yeah. Well, it goes flipped around to if it was a different, you're right, if it was a different situation and we were looking at multiple industrial companies looking to come to do something, and we were going out for supper with them as a group, and they were paying and buying the alcohol. By us taking the alcohol, would that be against a policy or a conflict of interest that looked like we were showing favoritism to, say, one company over the other? So those are day-to-day decisions that we would make as a municipality, but I couldn't see that happening. You know, I don't know when it would happen, but not often, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda, 11.1, under unfinished business relating to taxation. Do any members of council have any questions? Not at this time. I'm sure it will come up a bit when we're going through the budget. Okay.
Yeah, and we're still waiting on news on any assessment rollouts from the province through MPAC as well. So we haven't seen anything nor heard anything on that. We're still using the MVAs from MPAC based on 2016 at this point. So.
Okay. Next item is bylaw to confirm proceedings in council. Can I have a mover and second for a motion to pass the bylaw? Councillor Brand, Councillor Smith. All in favor? Motion is carried. No further business to attend to. It is 8:47. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
Thank you.